explore the world without having to leave your kitchen. Join me as I take some of the most popular dishes from around the globe and give them a healthy twist. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Healthy Around the World, where we travel the world without having to leave our kitchen, and we do it all via our taste buds. Now, today's recipe is a dish this is not the first time I've actually prepared this dish. The very first time I prepared this dish, and it is baked eggs, Turkish style baked eggs. It actually appeared in my cookbook, Breakfast Around the World. And the dish that we're doing is this very traditional baked egg dish done in a tomato stew. And the very first time that I put it up, I was really pleasantly surprised at just how good it tastes. So this traditional style dish originated in the Middle East, and there's a little bit of controversy over where it actually was created. Now, I'm doing a Turkish style baked egg today, and in fact this dish I created for our boost camp. So it is breakfast for our boost camp program, but it is so good I wanted to share it with you guys because yes, it does come from the Middle East, and this dish, the baked eggs, can be seen through Turkey, even in Israel, right throughout North Africa as well. And it's very popular, and it's very delicious and easy to make. So I thought I would share that with you today, our Turkish baked eggs, also known as shakshuka. And as I was saying, it's fabulous and it is wonderful to eat and to make. Now, I'm going to be giving you two for the price of one today. So I'm giving you two recipes in today's cooking class. The first recipe that we're going to be doing is a tomato sauce. And the tomato sauce that we're doing, I call this my cheats tomato sauce because I actually created it when tomatoes were not in season, so they're really expensive, because I do another type of tomato sauce. Which is basically just roasted fresh tomatoes with lots of spices, and we create the most wonderful sauce. But as I was saying, tomatoes were so expensive, I thought there's got to be a cheats version, and this is what I've come up with. So the first thing that we need for our Turkish style baked eggs is we need to create this wonderful tomato sauce. And yes, you can use this tomato sauce in so many other wonderful ways. Like you can make it with meatballs, you can do like a zucchini dish as well, where you put the tomato sauce through it. It's really versatile. So on my tray here, I just have a couple of tomatoes. So I want to show you the difference between the tomatoes because it is really important the type of tomato that you do use for this dish, and ideally you want to use what is known as a Roma or Italian plum tomato. So you can kind of see it's oblong, it's elongated, and the reason why I suggest, if you can, purchase these style of tomatoes, because they have a lot of flesh and very little seed. In fact, they were specifically grown as a canning, preserving, or sauce tomato because of the little seeds that they had. And if you can see down here on my tray, I've actually got some normal style tomatoes, just your normal round ones. And you can kind of see that there's quite a lot of seeds and very little flesh as well. But when it comes to our Roma, and I'll just quickly cut into it so you can see, when it comes to our Roma, and I do suggest the first thing you do when you're preparing your tomatoes, now by the way, the recipe I'm giving you makes almost a litre or a kilo of this wonderful cheats tomato sauce. So you need 6 sort of that size Romas, which is sort of medium-sized Romas, and you want to take a very small knife, and then what you want to do is remove that little edge there because it's kind of hard and inedible. You want to take it out, just using the tip of your knife. You just want to remove that little bit there. So that's the only thing that you don't use on the tomato, is that little guy there. And then if I cut into this tomato, you can see that, you know, it has a good amount of flesh, which is what you want. And it's not got as many seeds. People do say it's not quite as watery as the other tomatoes, and it was literally created to become this canning or sauce tomato. So take out that little eye, the eye of the tomato, just like that. And then taking up your knife, you want to slice them into into quarters, or if they're quite big, maybe even into thirds, each half. Lay them onto a roasting tray. I've just got a bit of baking paper on there, just to help with the clean up process, because it's so much easier to clean. Just take it off, and then we're going to add a few bits and pieces in terms of different types of spices onto this before we pop it into the oven. So I've got my oven preset. Actually, I've got the grill on, so the grill or the broiler, and I've got that on high because we are going to be popping this just under the grill to get them lovely and caramelized. So the types of spices that we're going to be using today is I've got a little bit of cumin spice, and you want to sprinkle over, there's a ground cumin, to about 2 teaspoons of, and that's probably the best way to do it, is just to tap the top of it with your finger. So 2 teaspoons of your ground cumin goes on there. Give it a little bit of a tap. I love this spice. I love this spice so much, and it is definitely these spices that create the most wonderful flavor and enhancements to this tomato sauce. So the other spice I'm using is garam masala, and once again we're going to be using 2 teaspoons, and you just want to sprinkle that on the top of your tomatoes. We don't need to add any oils or anything like that, because we're literally wanting to create this wonderful caramelization. The only thing I am going to do is just take a tablespoon or 2 of my sticky sauce, which once again has all these wonderful flavors. And it's got ginger in there, and it's got garlic, and it's got a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and of course the gluten-free tamari. So a couple of tablespoons of that goes in. And then you pop this into the oven under the grill, so you've got top heat going down as close as you can to the grill, and you want to leave that to caramelize and brown and get really, really luscious for around about sort of 20 to 30 minutes. Keep an eye on it, because depending on how hot your grill does get, but it's okay for it to go dark brown, because once it does that, you know you're getting really, really awesome flavor in your tomato sauce, which is totally important. So that goes into the oven, under the grill or the broiler. And when that's all kind of happening, what you can do over in your pot is you can start to prepare the cheats part. So yes, we've got some tomatoes, but we don't have many because they're quite expensive. And what you can do instead is grab yourself up 2 cans. And what I have here is this is Italian whole peeled tomatoes. So remember those Roma tomatoes? That's them in a can, but they've taken out they've taken off all the peel, and of course there's juice in there as well. So you need 2 cans, and I think this cost me like 80 cents or something like that. So you want to look for Italian whole peeled or Roma. They're also known as Italian plum tomatoes, but look for that elongated shape on the can, and you just need a couple of cans of those. So you take 2 cans and they go straight into your pot. Pour them into your pot. Along with those 2 cans, you want to also add in 2 teaspoons of finely chopped ginger, goes into your pot as well. You're going to add in 2 teaspoons of finely chopped garlic, goes in there too. We are going to add a little bit more sticky sauce because we want that wonderful rich flavor to really come through when we're making the sauce. So 2 tablespoons of this beautiful sticky sauce goes in there. Of course, let's think about a pinch of salt. Look at me pretending a pinch of salt goes in there. And then just to help the balance of flavors, what I like to actually do is also to put in sort of 2 to 4 tablespoons of our pure as inulin powder, because as you know, this is a prebiotic dietary fiber which we're adding to our tomato sauce. We're turning it into a wonderful prebiotic which helps to populate our gut microbiome, but it also has that fabulous sweetness quality to it as well, so it does help to balance out the flavor. So 2 to 4 tablespoons, that all obviously depends on how acidic your tomatoes are. So once you've got those things in the pot, maybe start off with 2 tablespoons of our inulin powder. You want to bring that to the boil and then just reduce it down to a simmer, and that'll bubble away very, very gently for probably about as long as your tomatoes are in under the grill or the broiler. Then you take those roasted, caramelized, gorgeous tomatoes from under the grill and you put them into your pot. Now you want to put up the heat just a little bit to about medium, and you want that to bubble away and just get lovely and gorgeous, and those cooked tomatoes become really, really, really soft. So once you're at that point, I'm just going to finish off this sauce, which is basically everything I've talked about is now currently in my pot. Take yourself up either a handheld, this is my handheld stick blender, it's one of my attachments for my wonderful blender, or you can put this into a food processor as well, and then standing back, because you might get you might get sprayed by tomato juice, you just want to blend this all up until, of course, what you're going to have is literally the most gorgeous Cheats tomato sauce that you can then add into anything, and it is so wonderful, and you get such a lot, and literally, you know, the addition of those canned tomatoes, like, it is just fabulous and budget friendly, which I really, really like. So once you've got, you want a smooth sauce, like no big chunks of tomato, but of course this is going to be a very thick style tomato sauce, so that's all fine as well. So that is recipe number 1 when it comes to our Turkish baked eggs. And for anyone who's watching this that is on the boost camp, this sauce that you've created, it's actually going to appear a couple times on your meal plan, so how fabulous is that? And it will last, you know, store it in a jar, you know, with a really tight fitting lid, or in a container with a lid, and you can store that in your fridge quite happily for a couple of weeks. And of course, no gluten, no sugar, no dairy, you know, vegan friendly. That is our tomato sauce done. We're going to pop that off to the side. I'm going to show you the next part of this recipe. So one of the reasons why I really love this dish is, yes, it tastes amazing, but it really does go to show just how incredible the diaspora of people throughout the Middle East and throughout North Africa is, because so many countries, including Turkey of course, claim this dish as being originating there. But it's hard to say, it's hard to pinpoint exactly where this come from, but you know, the reason that kind of makes this very Turkish is the types of spices that I'm going to be using in this dish today. So I've got my pan on here because we are going to be creating this baked egg dish in a pan. So whatever pan you decide to choose, you need to make sure, you could also do this in a casserole, but ideally in a pan, you need to make sure that it is oven proof, because my entire pan, believe it or not, is going to go into the oven once I have done the part of the cooking on the cooktop. So I've got my pan on, and I've just got it on a medium temperature, and that's just heating up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be cooking the meat or the protein that's going into this. Now, it's up to you what protein you use. I have chosen a very lean chicken mince, and I minced that myself using chicken thigh. You could also use chicken breast as well. And you need about 400 grams, which is 14 ounces. This is enough for 5 portions, which is basically breakfast Monday to Friday if you are meal prepping, or if you're making this for something special or a special occasion, this will serve 5 people. So 400 grams of the chicken mince. You could also use turkey mince as well. But the first thing that I need to do is just kind of create a few flavors on there. As I was saying, the spices in this dish are really, really important. And just because we're adding spices does not mean it's spicy, it means it's fragrant. So taking up my sticky sauce to begin with, I'm going to be frying off a bit of ginger and a little bit of garlic as well. So that's the first thing that we do, is we're going to take our sticky sauce, and you want to add about a tablespoon, and then straight after that you're going to add a tablespoon of our finely chopped ginger goes in there, and a tablespoon of our finely chopped garlic. So those are the first 2 things that we've got to get going. And of course we need to create a little bit of a stir fry and get those spices working for us in our pan, getting them nice and fragrant. So you want to stir fry these 2 together, and stir frying basically means that you're moving the food around all the time, because obviously you don't want it to burn, but you want the flavor to be extracted from the goodies that you've just stuck in there. And of course, chopped ginger and garlic, it smells really good right now. It smells really good. Chopped ginger and garlic are really super fragrant, and there's such a nice base when it comes to this dish. So those 2 get sort of stir fried off for about 30 seconds. And the next thing we're going to do is actually we're going to add in the spices, because I want the spices to have time on the heat here, because what that's actually going to do is that that's going to cause the spices to increase in flavour or to bloom. So I'm going to be adding some cumin powder, a teaspoon, goes straight onto the base of our pan there. I'm also going to be adding some coriander powder, a teaspoon as well is going in there. And now this is the spice that you cannot do without when it comes to this dish. Oh, wrong way around. That way you're like, what is it? It's paprika. And I'm using a smoked sweet paprika here. So I'm going to start off with a teaspoon of paprika is going in there. This is the spice, trust me, you've got to get a good quality paprika. I'm actually using a paprika, I think it's from Spain. Let me just double check. I haven't got my glasses on. I still can't tell you. Yes, it is. I think I can see it. I might have to get Coco to read it for me. Can you tell me where that's from, please, Coco? I think it's Spain. It is a wonderful paprika, by the way. It is one of my favourite ones. There you go. Can you tell me where that's from? I think it's Spain. Oh, the smell. It's Spain. I'm getting the nod. And now she doesn't want to get on camera. I'm getting the nod. So this paprika here, let me show you under the camera there. It is, like I said, it's from Spain, and it is the sweet smoked paprika. And already the smell coming off this frying pan, it's pretty phenomenal. Let me tell you that. It is pretty good. And remember that when you start adding heat to spice, it blooms. You are literally allowing it to develop. And if you were to just put in, the spices without any heat, you're not going to get the full, the full complement of flavors and layerings that these types of spices actually do have. So don't be shy and don't be scared to allow this to happen for about a minute. Obviously, you want to keep an eye on your temperature, because if you've got too much heat, they will burn and then it's bitter. So you just want this sort of I've got it just under medium. All right, that is looking good. It is smelling even better. Let me tell you how good it smells. Right, here we go. Over to our lovely chicken mince. And I actually minced this myself. And the reason I minced this myself is because I don't want the mince to be too fine. I literally just put it in my food processor and buzz it away. I don't want it to be too fine because it can dry out. So I quite like it to be quite chunky. And this 400 grams or 14 ounces is absolutely perfect. If you're thinking that's not very much for 5 portions, we are also going to be adding in some vegetables. So I'm going to allow that, even though right now I'm just kind of breaking it up. But I'm going to allow that to do its thing while I am preparing the vegetable portion of this dish. And this is where we really get the full complement of health. Because of course, I like to take recipes that are pretty awesome on their own, but give them a healthy twist. And the healthy twist that I'm doing with our Turkish style baked eggs today is by adding fabulous vegetables in quite a good amount as well. So in my gorgeous, gorgeous bowl here, this excites me beyond belief, seeing something like this. I have a decent amount, and now I'm starting to get smoky. I'm going to open the door. You can't see me opening the door, but it's just over here. We need some airflow. Bit of airflow. Oh, it's better. I'm going to be, and the cats are probably going to come into the kitchen very soon, into the studio. In my gorgeous bowl here, I have a variety of vegetables. All these vegetables are non-starchy vegetables, so I'm not going to add potato or sweet potato or anything like that that is quite high in naturally occurring starches or carbohydrates. I'm actually going for vegetables that are very, very fibrous, because it's the fiber that feeds your healthy gut bacteria. It is the fiber that helps to keep you regular, and it is the fiber that lets your body know that you're full. It is satiating and satisfying. So having these fibrous vegetables as opposed to vegetables that are quite high in starch, which will spike your blood glucose and raise your insulin really quickly, and they don't have as much nutrients or fiber. So we're going for nutrient dense. So I've got fennel. I'm going to put a bit of onion because I've actually got a turnip. Look at that. You could use swede, you could use rutabaga, you could use kohlrabi. I've got an eggplant. I have one of my favourite vegetables at the moment, which is chayote or choco. I have some zucchini, and I even have some asparagus and a few mushrooms over there. So we're going to be adding all these vegetables into our gorgeous pot here, or pan of chicken. As you can see, it is coming up really, really good. So I'm going to turn that down while I prepare my vegetables. So zucchini here, and it doesn't matter what vegetables you choose, but they should be fibrous. You can also, by the way, use cauliflower or broccoli. In fact, another reason I like this recipe is, yes, it has my cheats tomato sauce, but as you guys also know, you can pick and choose which vegetables you want to go into your dish. And as I was saying, the main consideration here is fibre, nutrient dense, and then when you're preparing your vegetables, you want them to be all diced the same size. So you want them to cook evenly, so you don't want big chunks. You want a nice dice here. And it doesn't matter which vegetable you choose. I'll just do half of that one. Doesn't matter which vegetable you choose, as long as I was saying, high fibre and a nice even dice so it cooks evenly. And what's actually going to happen, as you guys will notice, is that not only are you getting awesome variety of vegetables, but you're getting really good flavour as well. So we've got our zucchini. Let me also just take these asparagus. These are floating around in the vegetable crisper, and I was like, oh, I might throw some asparagus in there. I've never done that. I've never had this particular, baked eggs with asparagus. That'll be quite lovely. Same thing, you want to go for a very similar size, and they can all get mixed together. Let's also add a bit of eggplant. Absolutely no need to peel your eggplant, as you know. And again, same size. This is the important stuff here. Always want to go for the same sizes of the dice. I'm just trying to think of the other vegetables that you could use. I mentioned kohlrabi, which is a wonderful vegetable. If you've never tried it, it is gorgeous. But of course, just your common, vegetables like your cauliflower or your broccoli goes really nice in here as well. So this is turnip, and I got to tell you, turnip was kind of like, I've heard really unusual things about turnips, that they just get boiled whole in soup. If you used to live at the workhouse, it was not something that I would have ever considered a couple of years ago, but I think it's fabulous. And turnip can be put into so many wonderful dishes, and of course this dish that we're doing here, the baked eggs, is just one dish. But I've pickled turnips, and they're really, really good because they've got a lovely, lovely flavour. So we're going to put some turnip in here. You could also use celeriac, which is another fibrous root vegetable, but not one like as in a carrot, which is quite high in starches. You want to avoid carrots. But yeah, celeriac's got a lovely flavour as well. Very, very nutrient dense. So in total, you're looking for, I'm just going to add some onion because onion, right? In total, you're looking for about 3 large handfuls of vegetables. So, that's probably going to be like over a pound or over 500 grams of vegetables, maybe even more, 600 or 700 grams. So you're getting a really decent amount of fibre in every single portion of this dish. And that is exactly what I was aiming for when I created it. I want to make sure that you guys had fibre. Fennel! Anyone who knows me knows I love fennel. So when it comes to fennel, some people do, some people don't, because of course it does have quite a aniseed-like flavour to it. So for some people, they find that a little bit off-putting. So I will leave that up to you. But just remember that fennel cooked is completely different from fennel raw. So cooked fennel loses very much of that sort of aniseed flavour, and especially if you're cutting it into a small dice, I do find that it just seamlessly goes into this dish, and I do really enjoy the texture of it as well. So feel free to throw in some fennel, and fennel's super cheap at the moment. Like I bought 3 bulbs for, I think it was $4. at my local veggie shop, which was made me very happy because I put fennel in everything. Got to tell you that my favourite way to have fennel, roasted. Oh, I love it, just like you would roast a spud. It is just so wonderful. All right, we've got our vegetables. Really happy with what's happening over here in our pan. You know, the flavours, the mince is cooked through, but the flavours are wonderful. All we need to do now is to add in our vegetables. Remember those 3 big, gorgeous handfuls of vegetables? And you can already see that this is really starting to come together well. Right? This is coming together nice. Now, I'm going to put that temperature back up. Like I said, around about medium. If you're finding that it may be a little bit on the dry side, you can, at this point in time, add another tablespoon of sticky sauce, which will be absolutely fine. So I'm going to add just a bit of sticky, only because it took me longer to cut the vegetables than I expected, because I was talking. A bit more sticky is just going to help the process along. And you want to stir fry this now. Get those vegetables cooking. Probably take a couple of minutes of just getting some heat applied to the vegetables. And then once you've done that and the vegetables are kind of about halfway cooked, then you're going to consider adding in that wonderful tomato sauce that we made earlier. So they've been cooking for a couple of minutes now, just starting to become lovely and tender. I am going to add in just a few mushrooms. I'm just adding some button mushroom, only because I love mushrooms. They don't need quite as much cooking as the other vegetables. I mean, one of the gorgeous things about mushrooms is, have you ever tried them? Have you ever tried them thinly sliced and raw through a salad? They are marvelous. So don't be afraid, to add in some mushrooms if you want to. Lovely, lovely, flavoursome vegetable. I'm just going to add in just a handful. It's really going to give this shakshuka some wonderful, wonderful flavour. Stir those through. Looking amazing. Let's be honest here. This looks really, really good. Yummy. Let's go over to our tomato sauce. So when it comes to the tomato sauce, you want to add about 400 grams, which is 14 ounces, or about half of what you prepared when you made the recipe. So it's about 400 grams. And if you're wondering, do I have to make the tomato sauce? Could I possibly, buy the tomato sauce? Well, yes, you could, but please just be aware that a lot of those pre-prepared tomato sauces on the market contain sugar, which we don't want, and they also contain preservatives and additives. So just be really mindful that if you are deciding that you want to choose a pre-prepared one, make sure it doesn't have any nasties in it. I mean, I personally love this sauce because there's not a lot of pre-made tomato sauces on the market that have as much flavour as this one does, thanks to those wonderful spices, and ginger and garlic and all that sort of stuff that we added. So you can kind of see that we now have this sort of vegetable stew happening here. And all that's left for us to do now, actually I might just add a little bit more tomato sauce. I didn't measure it, and I can tell I didn't measure it because it normally looks a bit saucier than that. So about 400 grams in total, but saucy. You want it to be lovely and saucy. That's wonderful. I haven't even added any seasoning yet, I've just realised. There's so much flavour, smell-wise, that's happening here. So I'm just going to add some seasoning towards the end before it goes into the oven. And by the way, I have the oven set on 200 degrees Celsius, heating up. We're now going to add our eggs. And the best way to do that, let me turn that down. The best way to do that is to take a large spoon or a tablespoon. I'm sort of flattening out the dish now, just like that. Let me get rid of those. We don't need those anymore. And then taking your spoon, you want to make sort of 5 indentations in the tomato sauce. And that's basically where your egg is going to sit and going to bake. So I can probably get 5 indentations, just like that. I think I got 5, like a little flower. Wonderful. And taking up your egg, you want to crack an egg into one of the dents. Another little dent. Crack your egg in. Wonderful. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you guys making this dish. It is wonderful. When I was creating new recipes for our boost camp, this was one of my favorite ones that I created because of those flavors, because of those gorgeous flavors. So remember, crack an egg into the dent. We're doing 5 in total here. So there's 5 portions or 5 serves. So if you are doing boost camp, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, this is your breakfast, which is great. So we do that. As I said, I haven't added any seasoning, so let's do that now. Bit of pepper goes on there. I might add a bit more. That's better. Bit of pepper, freshly ground. Let's also add a little bit of mineral salt as well. Can get sprinkled over the top. But you want to finish this off in the best possible way before it goes into the oven. And the way that you do that is our Spanish paprika, our smoked sweet paprika. This just, as I was saying, this is the spice that makes everything nice. Did you see what I did there? It really is really fabulous. So once again, just using your finger, you're probably going to add another teaspoon of paprika. Tap, tap, tap with your finger to make sure that it's getting all over your dish. Just like this. And then you're going to head off to the oven. Remember, 200 degrees, 390 degrees Fahrenheit. You're going to head off to the oven with your pan, with your baked eggs or your shakshuka, and that is going to cook for about 6 to 10 minutes in the oven. Now, if you like your eggs cooked through, then you probably want to aim towards more of the 10-minute mark. If you like your white set and your yolk runny, which is what I do, you're probably around about 6 to 7 minutes. It's heavy, over to the oven we go. Here it is, the time of the big reveal. We have our wonderful baked eggs. You can sort of see if I just give this a bit of a shake, obviously being very careful because the handle's hot, giving it a bit of a shake. We have the whites perfectly set, but the yolk is still gorgeous and runny, which is the way I like it. So the last thing that you could do if you wanted to is just taking up some fresh parsley and giving it a bit of a chop through. It definitely helps with a bit of colour and that little bit of flavour as well. So just a bit of a rough chop through with our parsley, fresh from my garden. It's always exciting when you can grab produce and herbs straight from your garden. Now, I don't have anything but herbs at this stage. One day I will, but for now I am very excited to be able to add fresh herbs straight onto my dishes before they get served to myself and to our family. And I would honestly, if you're making this for a brunch or breakfast for you, your family or your friends, I would 100% serve this straight from the pan. I would put that on your wooden chopping board onto the table there, and I'll plonk this down, of course, with a big spoon so everyone can then go in and serve themselves just like that. Can you see the wobble, wobble, wobble? And I should absolutely break the yolk for you guys. I wonder if we're going to get a good yolk break here. No, we're not. Oh, we got a bit of a yolk break there. Not much of a yolk break, but I would honestly, that's how I would definitely serve this dish. And if you are serving it for your friends and family, you can also serve this with a side of coconut yogurt that has just been watered down, just a little bit of water, so it's drizzleable. Is that a word? It is now, drizzleable, over top of your shakshuka. And of course you could also serve it with a bit of gluten-free bread on the side as well. But if you're making this for Boost Camp, you have 5 portions ready for you Monday to Friday. I know you're going to love this because, as I was saying, This is one of my favorite dishes of all the new recipes that I've created. And of course, I wanted to share with you guys healthy around the world, because this wonderful dish, yes, it comes from Turkey, but it also comes from Israel. It also comes from Morocco. You know, it also comes from all parts of the Middle East and North Africa. It is absolutely fabulous. If you would like the full recipe, that's 2 for 1, remember, Cheats tomato sauce and my fabulous Turkish style baked eggs, all you need to do is go to Modkai, that's modkai.com, which is our recipe sharing platform, and pick up your copy now. You can print it off, you can make it, you can create it, you can have a bit of fun. I've had a bit of fun today. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Healthy Around the World, where we do the same thing every week on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here. We travel the world through our taste buds. I look forward to spending more time with you really soon. Until then, be well and be safe. Take care. Bye.